Hello and welcome to yet another episode of The Exchange, and we're meeting at a time when the Sri Lankan government has some ambitious targets on digitalization. And in between all of that, we get to hear that the Sri Lankan Treasury has lost 2.5 million US dollars in a cyber attack. We have with us Charuka Damunupola from the Sri Lanka Computer Emergency Readiness team, and my opening question in an interview hasn't been simpler. How does a government lose $2.5 million?
Yeah, in terms of this particular incident, it's what we call a business email compromise or payment redirection fraud. So what happened in this sort of incident is it can be either email account compromise or someone, a third party entity can impose or even impersonate as a legitimate payment receiver. So in similar scenarios, what happened is the third party has managed to get in hold with the email communication and managed to redirect the payment details to a third party account. So that's what happened in a normal business email compromise. So we believe in this similar incident as well, the BEC has happened.
Right. So if I send you a small sum of money through a SEF transfer, I often contact you and tell, look, I made the transfer.
Yeah.
An intergovernmental transaction of this scale involving millions of dollars, do you not think there should be mechanisms in place for dual-step verifications, acknowledgements from the other party?
So what happens in BEC is special, unlike the traditional system compromise, whether it's infrastructure disruption. This is mainly with the use of the social engineering attacks, where the weakest human link will be tested in most of these cyber incidents. So in that cases, these scammers will use several social engineering techniques to impersonate several legitimate accounts, and in terms of that, sometimes as humans can be going undetectable in detecting such cases. So in what we are mostly recommending in such cases is to have a kind of like a dual approval process in terms of validating verification. But in this incident, those processes can be also compromised. So that's what we normally happen. That's what we normally recommended in terms of preventing such cases. You need to have your processes in line, and also you need to verify your processes as well. It's not just about the technical aspects, it's about also the processes and the people as well.
Right. So this whole debt repayment process was recently taken from the Central Bank of Sri Lanka to the Ministry of Finance. At this point of transfer of such an important national activity, was an agency like SLCERT called in to do an audit of whether the system suffices?
So in terms of this particular incident, I think we have been involved with the Ministry of Finance in order to conduct several security assessment. But I think it's a slow process in terms of auditing the entire applications and entire processes, right? So in terms of processes, we have also introduced the implementation of information and cybersecurity policy across all government entities. But the policy implementation actually will be hopefully in the next few months that actually the government organization should at least try to implement that policy where it will actually help to prevent such similar cases. But still we see a lack of...
Was this recommendation made by your team a while ago?
Yes, and also there's a separate cabinet directive issued across all those government entities to implement this information and cybersecurity policy across all these entities. And also, most important thing is even the National Audit Office will audit their transactions as well in terms of the cybersecurity posture aligning with these policies.
Right. So we have seen previous occasions of central banks, including the famous Bangladeshi central bank hack. It was quite a complicated infiltration involving the SWIFT system. How does it feel knowing that it didn't even go that far and it was a very simple email interception that cost us this amount of money?
Yeah, so by the looks of it, you might think that this is kind of like a compromise of several SWIFT systems that involve in a transaction.
But it's not, it's quite simple.
Not. It's quite simple, straightforward, kind of like an email compromise. And also it generally involves mainly the social engineering attacks which has been used throughout for this particular incident. Yeah.
You've been a core part of the investigation, and we have seen the ministry come out and say they have taken disciplinary action against several officers. what is the sort of thought process behind taking disciplinary action? Was there anything more than just the lack of knowledge for disciplinary action to be taken, or did they just fall victim to social engineering? What was it?
So that's the most important thing in terms of raising the awareness among the employees, right? Even if you look at the private sector, we have seen many companies taking awareness programs before onboarding of employees into their system. So that sort of a system would be in need if you take out the outputs of these particular incidents. So I think it's one of the key things to raise the awareness because the social engineering attacks can vary from different aspects to different verticals. So that's the most important thing, to have a more up-to-date awareness programs across all those organizations.
Now, we saw the Secretary to the Treasury come out and say the reason they didn't reveal that this happened for 3 or so months was the fact that the hacker might cover their trails. But don't you think it's quite ridiculous to think that the hacker wouldn't have covered his trails if they did not come out and make a public announcement?
So this is also all about like investigation where the law enforcement will come and continue their investigation. If you look at similar accounts, what we see is this money can be going through several transaction accounts or travel through, through several countries as well. So and also it might end up in several virtual assets as well. So for that particular reasons.
But that would happen irrespective of the ministry coming out and saying this has happened or not.
Yeah,
right?
But the thing is like sometimes this money can be come out in different forms, I think. So for that particular reason, these investigations should align with all sort of like, anti-money laundering acts and everything. So
was this a recommendation by your team?
That's mainly coming from the law enforcement authority.
Right. Did SLCERT agree with this recommendation?
So it doesn't have to be from us because we are mainly looking at the technical aspects. So in terms of finding the suspect and tracing the money, this falls under the law enforcement and their expertise. Yeah.
Looking forward more towards curing the disease now that we've identified it.
Yeah.
What sort of steps were taken following the identification?
So in terms of the mitigation steps, I think it has to be kind of like a national level kind of a policy implementation should also involve. So that's why we are in the hope of like implementing the National Cybersecurity Act, which will enact cybersecurity agency where eventually have the law enforcement power mainly in order to look after this government organization, whether they are adhering to the cybersecurity standards and so on. So I think that is one of the things that we'll be looking after in the next few months coming up. And also not apart from that Cybersecurity Act, we also have a National Cybersecurity Operations Center which is operating 24/7 in order to identify cyber threats. And we are in the phase 1 of slowly connecting those critical information infrastructure organization into this national SOC. So that is also in place, and also we have created the national strategy, cybersecurity strategy for next 5 years, which will have all the domains and trust areas that will eventually help to enhance the cybersecurity posture of government organizations.
What sort of steps were taken within the infiltrated system?
So in terms of the system, I think the forensic analysis is ongoing, and also some technical precautions has been also recommended by our investigation teams.
Is this system still being used, or has it been put temporarily on hold?
The system is still in use under like more monitoring supervision. Yeah.
Can you guarantee that this would not repeat within this specific system, at least at this time?
So that's the most difficult question to answer, because you cannot like achieve like let's say 100% security. So what we in this world with the advancement of technology, the AI coming into play, you cannot say that this system is fully secured now. So that's why you need to have this continuous monitoring, continuous compliance, governance, and everything has to be in more advanced level in order to prevent any future attacks.
We've seen the central bank governor, we have seen every private bank in the nation send so many messengers, do so many awareness campaigns about how you don't have to share your OTPs, how you have to be careful, how you shouldn't act on random calls. How did it feel like knowing that this sort of a mistake was done at the top of our monetary system rather than the citizens you all usually mourn about?
So that's the kind of like a more complicated question in terms of like awareness. right? It can happen in either from top level or from the bottom or anywhere. So whether it's regardless of your education levels, your occupation or your knowledge level, your IT literacy, your computer literacy, whatever, it can happen into anyone. So that's why, as in general, the awareness should cover the entire ecosystem of organization in order to like uplift their knowledge.
That's it from this episode of The Exchange. Mr. Damunupola, thank you very much for joining, and I hope we would get back to warning the public rather than the government officials very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.